recall that we were all here on Wednesday last week, and after the meeting of Wednesday, government gave us their position and told us the reason why they did what they did. So on our part, government told us the reasons why they did what they did, but on our part, we did not agree with them. So they presented some of the things to us that they consider as palliatives. That with those items that they presented to us, that we should consider them in the meeting. But we told them no, that we cannot consider them in that meeting, that we are going back to call our respective organs. So we went back, we called the NEC of Trade Union Congress of Nigeria on Friday. And during the NEC meeting, the NEC of TUC decided that because we already told government as at Wednesday that we are taking their demand back, we want to go and look at them. Then, because they asked us what was our demand, we said we didn't have the mandate to discuss the demand as at then. So we went back, we called our meeting on Friday, we had extensive deliberation, and our NEC now mandated us with some list of demands to come and meet with the government side today. So the meeting we just concluded, we have detailed and marshaled out a list of our demands to them. So they also in turn told us that when they presented the items to us on Wednesday, we told them that we're going back to our principals. So that they also need to touch base with Mr. President so that we will convey this meeting again on Tuesday. So we've, and topmost in our demand was clearly stated as well that for utmost good faith and in the interest of social dialogue, that they should revert back the pump price while discussion continues.
All right, we realize NLC was not in that meeting. Are you having the talk from this NLC? Are you aware why they're not here?
I know, because when you call an organ meeting, an organ takes a life of its own. So the decision of your organ is what you are expected to implement. So all of us staying here today, we are agents of NEC of TUC. So the NEC of TUC took a decision, and that decision is what we are trying to push through.
Are you satisfied with discussions so far reached?
Yes, we have presented a list of our demands to them, and they received it in good faith that they will go back to their principal and come back to us on Tuesday. So we are hopeful that the demand that we have presented would it will be reviewed in the best interest of Nigerian workers and the entire Nigerian masses. Yes, the demand are so long, there are so many. There are so many. Part of it was the demand for a minimum wage, and we stated that for us it is quite apt that the minimum wage today is not a living wage, as we all know. The value of the minimum wage is what has been negotiated, has plummeted to a very abysmal level as it is today. So we demanded. Yes, because they are going back to Mr. President. So we also think that we should give them that benefit of doubt. Because the things we presented to them the last time, they did also reveal it before the press. So it is also quite apt for them to go back. Maybe when we meet on Tuesday, we can dissect them one after the other, be much more specific.
Is anyone divided? Last meeting you had with the government, you were here with the NLC. So
I think I've answered that question. That when you have NEC meetings, so the NEC take a decision that the leadership are bound to implement. So we were holding the meetings almost simultaneously. So the NEC of TUC gave us the mandate. That is why we are here today. If, for example, if it was just the leadership alone that comes together and have a conversation, maybe it will be a bit different. But because it was a NEC, it's an organ, one of the highest decision-making body outside the delegate conference of the center. So they took a decision, and that is what we are trying to see through.
Don't you think that TUC and NLC are not that?
But it's your function as press. It's your function as press to also help us educate Nigerians, to make them understand that when you call organ meetings, that the decision of the organ is what the leadership are bound to push through and to implement. Thank you. Thank you so much.
We convened meeting today. As we promised you a few days ago after we had the initial meeting with the labor movement, we said we were going to reconvene today to keep the engagement on in order to diffuse the tension in the land as a result of the withdrawal of subsidy, which is a reality. Now, we are very happy to announce to Nigerians that this engagement has been very productive. The TUC that attended today's meeting presented a list of demands, and those demands we have studied and we are going to present to Mr. President for his consideration. But those demands, we can announce to Nigerians that a lot of the items on the list are not impracticable. What we need to do is to study the numbers very well, and then we have asked the TUC to also give us a leeway to consult, very exhaustively, and come back on Tuesday, reconvene on Tuesday to actually look at the numbers, the viability, practicability of all the items that have been presented to us. Now, most important, top priority on the list, which the government is also looking at very seriously, and the president has announced before, is the issue of the minimum wage, which the labor movement has demanded as a consequence of these removal of the consequential impact of the removal of subsidy. So government is looking at that, and Mr. President is most likely going to constitute a tripartite committee. That is the committee of federal government and including the states, then the organized labor on the other part, and the private sector. Now, this is a tripartite arrangement. It will be a committee that will study all the dynamics of a wage increase, the percentages, the numbers, and the categories that will be affected. So by Tuesday, when we come back to reconvene and meet with the TUC again, the labor movement, we should have very concrete items to present to the world. But the most important thing for today is that we are making appreciable progress with the labor. Thank you very much.
What are the other demands beyond? What other demands did they put on the table beyond the minimum wage, sir?
Oh, it's a list, but we are not going to be listing all of those things now. We are not going to. The most important is the minimum wage. That is increase of minimum wage, because when this thing is removed, the argument of labor is that there is an immediate impact on the workers, on the purchasing power, because price of fuel has gone up. So that would necessarily reduce the purchasing power of the average worker. So the next thing of immediate consequence is to increase the purchasing power of the worker. And so that, to me, and to all of us on this side, is a topmost priority on the list. There are other things like the tax holidays, which will be, some categories of workers will be beneficiaries, but those are all, the most important is the minimum wage.
NLC are not clear, sir. Are you negotiating separately with them?
No, we are not, but we are making efforts to reach NLC. We all agreed that we were going to meet here, but again, in this game, there are dynamics. Sometimes they could be meeting with their own executive and not able to meet with us, or they could want to postpone, or they have not actually articulated their own list of demands as the TUC, but we cannot second guess why they're not here. But efforts are being made to reach them. We are not isolating them at all. We are going to meet Mr. President now. We are going to give him a feedback on this, and he's going to take an immediate decision. And like I said, Mr. President himself, you all reported, he has said that there will be a review of the minimum wage. You all reported it. So we are not in disagreement. There is no disagreement at all with labor on that particular
One
issue.
of the president's spokesmen, Barry.
No, not at all. It has no relevance to the discussion on the concrete terms of the welfare of workers. Our discussion was majorly on the welfare of workers, how to cushion the impact of this subsidy removal on workers. That's all, not on any political partisanship.
The issue of strike properly, so that we can properly represent the government. Who should we say is leading the government in this conversation?
Of course, you can see all of us here. You can see the GCEO of NNPC. You can see some of us who have been mandated by the president. And don't forget that a presidential system of government is executive in capacity. The president can appoint anybody. He can even appoint consultants to act on his behalf. So there is no issue about that. It is not actually germane.
So
Were you able to convince them to shelve this?
Of course, we discussed that, and that's why we are still going to reconvene on Tuesday. And that's an appreciable progress.
Earlier, Labour said it was revert to status quo. Was there any attempt to touch on that?
Of course we did. We touched on that, and everybody looked at the practicability of that, the viability or otherwise. Now, the issue is that we will close all of those ones on Tuesday when we reconvene. Concrete decisions will be taken about that, and then we'll reach logical conclusions.
Just stay at the side.
It's okay, it's okay. So,